Okay, this is all looking and examining lighting and using lighting in Blender, and I'm going to cover the basic types of lights that you get, but also a three-point lighting setup, which I have a PowerPoint on, which I'll share with you guys as appropriate. Now, the first thing I've done here is I've built a basic scene. As you can see, it's got two coloured walls, blue and red, and a ground that's green. The reason I've done this is because it's it's additive colour, adding the light streams together, and I'm basically looking at how the lights cast. What I've done is I've also gone from default mode into materials. Yeah, I'm not too sure what the mode's called, but anyhow, hit Z. So I've got solid, look dev, but rendered's the one I really want to look for. I want to see how these lights display and turn up. Now, as you can see, there are 4 separate types of light, and as I change them, you'll see some fairly stark occurrences. So the first one is a point light, which is just a single point in space. It casts light in all directions. Next up, you've got sunlight. Sunlight points a particular direction, and it's basically treated as if it's coming from the sun. So what will happen is it will just point, all the light will be cast in that direction. So if I just rotate it around this way, you can see even though the light's over this side, the shadow's cast as if the sun is from where the camera is. And these are kind of good for external illumination and that sort of stuff, but you'll notice that the colours are really almost getting washed out, and the problem is you need to drop that strength down a lot to make it comparable to a normal scene. Whereas the point light doesn't do that to the same effect anyway. So the sun lamp is very powerful. Next is the spotlight, and as you can see, like a spotlight on stage and that sort of stuff, it casts an area of light and has a bit of fall off around it. So we can adjust the radius of that light. No, it's not that one. There's ways of controlling where it'll fall and how it'll fall in that sort of thing. So as it casts its light. So we have the softness of the light. So if we pull it to 0, we should get a harder light, or push it the other way, we get a softer light. Nope. Wonderful. Because there is meant to be a feature here that you can just click and slide, and it gives you the amount. Oh, blend. Okay. Gosh, actually. So here the blending, so you can see the lights falling off towards the edges of the circle it's creating. And the angle is wider, narrower, so you can get a real narrow spotlight kind of effect to highlight just an aspect of a character or pick up particular features. And then finally, we have an area lamp, which is considered to be a multi-point projection spot. So instead of having like a whole bunch of point lights in an area, you just have an area lamp that covers the same basic idea. And you can of course get different shapes, which may affect it, but you can't see it in this, and that sort of stuff. And I would strongly suggest that you go through all of these lamp features and see how it affects things. But this is only just sort of a brief overview of lamping, or lamps, before I go on to looking at lighting setups. So I'm going to need 3 lights, and to make life easier, I'm just going to make them all point lights, and then I'm going to duplicate them as appropriate. And I'm going to give them 3, well, actually I'll get rid of those 2 for now, and I'll talk about the first one. So the first point of light setup is what they call a key light. So this is something illuminating the target. So if this is a humanoid figure, and in fact, let's add the monkey head, because Susan has its uses. And grab Z direction, just grab. Select the head first. Come on, where are you? Almost, come on. There it is. Grab Z direction, lift it up. So here we have the light, the monkey head. And I don't want actually that in that stack. I actually want to be able to, so I can edit it at least. And we'll switch back to rendered mode so we can see what's going on. So here with Suzanne, I'll just rotate in the Z direction to turn to face the light, actually face the camera. We get a key light that illuminates most of the important features of the face. So, alright, And the key light is usually the strong one. It's targeted on the face and to illuminate the important parts of the scene. I shouldn't just go with face, but everything. And that's the first, a single point lighting setup. It's fairly simple and that sort of stuff. If the background and all that sort of stuff is fairly stark, then you can actually get a really strong focus on the character. So if I just get this in position, it's almost there. You can sort of see it's really shining a light on that character to make them seem appropriately illuminated. So if we actually look through the camera, and of course can't see a thing, so we'll just raise it up a bit so we've got a bit of focus on the head. So here you can see the important features of the camera is the light is illuminating the character. And then we need to sort of, this is the basic lighter setup. So it's really just trying to get a bit of information about the character and what you need to know about what's going on with that scene. Then we can step across and add another light. So I'll just duplicate this one and then pivot it around so it's pointing in the right direction. And the difference between this and the one on the character now, and this is actually going to be a fill light, is a fill light basically makes sure that the lines aren't that stark. So if I drop the illumination of that down to 1, what you get is you get full illumination of the character, the details thing. So if I actually turn that light off, put 0 into its power, you've got shadows that pop out. Add a little bit of light, it just fills in those shadows a little bit so you can sort of see the more details of the character. And each lighting setup, of course, adds more information and that sort of stuff of what's going on. So that's the fill light. And then finally, we have what is referred to as a backlight, which you can kind of guess what it's going to be about. It's going to illuminate the back of the character. It's also known as a rim light. So the goal of this light is actually to make the character pop out from the background. So if they've blended in with the background, you can't quite tell what's going on. You can make them pop out by basically giving them a little rim around the outline, or a halo effect, to make the character basically pop out of that background. And I'm going to be stuffing around with this for a little bit, but that's okay. And the goal here is really just to illuminate enough so they do actually can be seen. So if I just point that at the head, that should be fine. And then that should be fine, and I look through the head, and then we should see that back edge on that character. So if I just push it up to something extreme, you can see some of the edging and the highlighting around the surrounds on the head to be picked up a little more. And if I actually add a subsurface subdivision to it, which is one of the modifiers, it makes it a little smoother so we can pick out a little more detail. And then go back to my light and the lamp properties, which is the little light globe down here. Pull that to something a little saner, such as 5. Now normally with the lighting, your key light is the strongest. So if I push this to say 20, you can see that there. The fill light, well, it needs some detail, so maybe 2 to 5, I don't know. Eventually you've got to sort of pick this and go, well, what do I actually want, and that sort of stuff for it. And then finally for the rim light, I actually probably want to lift it up a little higher and then rotate it down so that it just points at the back of that head. Sort of like that. And to actually do that one, I just double tapped the R key to give myself trackball thing, so it's a little easier with some of this stuff on doing that. And if I push this, well, I'll leave that at 1, and I just change the color so it's a little more revealing. So let's give it a fiery back of the head. And I'll expand out the thing to a big number and can the blending. and that we'll put it to 20. You should be able to see it. So getting illuminating down there onto the actual cube that the monkey's head sits above, and let's just lift it up a little bit. And what you can see is a little dot or a halo right on the top of that head. In fact, yeah, no, spot's probably the better choice. So here you can see each one serves a function to illuminate the scene. So just to enhance it by pushing the colours a little bit, we'll go for a cyan, we'll go that side for magenta, and then here on the backlight we'll just push it round to the orange side of things, of the deep yellow. And that's what you get in terms of the character. And if we look from above, you can see the effect of all three lights. The main one that has the effect on the head is the fill light. It's designed to illuminate the scene. Where the key light, it's the key to the scene, where the fill light is filling in all the extra detail that it doesn't need to be revealed as much, but it all's part there. Alright, and that pretty much covers 3-point lighting setups. Have a look at the PowerPoint.